Hey, Zips fans, Spencer German of the Zips Digital Network. Pleased to be joined by the head coach of Akron women's tennis, Brian Peters, here as we have another weekly check-in with one of our head coaches. And Brian, just we'll start off as we tend to do with these, asking how you're holding up. How's everything going? I can tell the quarantine has done very well for your facial hair. So talk a little bit about that and let us know how you're doing.
Holding up well, wife and I are healthy and we're trying to stay as active as we can, and a little quarantine facial stuff going on for the team. I'm only shaving half of my face until this is over. So I kind of have the clean over here and then the other result over there a little bit. So just something kind of funny for the girls to make them smile a little bit in our team meetings. And yeah, everything's good. It's finals week, just making sure that the team's, getting the best grades that they can, and they're all healthy and everyone's checked in. And I think everything's good for the situation at hand.
I got to be honest, I don't know that my wife would be happy with me growing a half beard. So
I'm not going to 100% guarantee you that my wife is happy that I'm doing this either.
Oh, man. All right. Well, we'll get into more of the thick of asking about your team, what you guys are up to, all that stuff. And we'll start with obviously the fact that your team was in the middle of their season, in the thick of things, when this coronavirus stuff really started picking up and the precautions started taking effect. Just how did you feel about your team, about how they had progressed to that point, where they were at as they sort of geared up for that final stretch of the season? How were you feeling about them going into the portion of the season that you were in before all this stuff kind of hit?
We were playing our best tennis right when this whole thing went down. I know we're kind of plagued with some injuries this year. We weren't always at full strength, but we always have that next man up mentality. And we on all of our teams, we all try and peak for the MAC, but I really feel like we were going to do that. We are really making a lot of ground. Our doubles was getting better individually. The girls were working really hard. They were playing great tennis. Yeah, we were looking pretty good. Yeah, we were definitely playing good tennis.
I know one thing that you didn't get a chance to do was honor your seniors. You only had one this year with Rita. But because you didn't get that chance, I'm going to give you the floor here. What would you have wanted to say about her and having the ability to coach her had you had a chance to honor her at senior day?
Right, exactly. So I know it's really tough for the seniors in all sports this year. In fact, today the ITA is doing a Set for Success thing. We're going to have a little shout out for her on that. I think the biggest thing with our seniors is that we just communicate with them the best we can when we can't see them in person, like we can't right now. And maybe we'll get to do a little something for her if all this clears up, in person on campus. But she knows that we have the best wishes for her. We'll make her senior, when finals is over and stuff, senior year the best way that we can, given the situation. And Rita and I talk often. She knows that we can do as much as we can for her, given the situation. But I'd like to say personally, you can't ask for a better captain than her. She's an amazing team leader. She helps create a great atmosphere for our other players on the team. She was nice for our freshmen to come in and kind of look up to and kind of see some character attributes, some leadership attributes, things like that can really help our team moving forward. She was phenomenal. 12 out of 10 for that girl.
Yeah, I could tell that obviously Rita was a leader on your team, and that's obviously what you're looking for out of your senior leadership. So I'm curious, with the team not being together, obviously just unprecedented circumstances, things that you're not really used to, especially this time of year. How are you able to keep in touch with them? I know some of the other coaches I've talked to talk about, doing stuff like this, Zoom meetings, but what are your strategies to sort of keep in touch with the team, keep the camaraderie up, and just interact with them sort of on a weekly or even daily basis?
Absolutely. Yeah. We do the Zoom meetings, the virtual stuff, which is good. Individual phone calls and check-ins are nice. I know right now with all of us, there's not a whole lot we can do as far as like training and things like that. So it's nice to know that my team is really eager to get some summer training going on, either at their clubs back home. We've got people here in the U.S. and all over the world. And so they're not all going to get back to doing that stuff at the same time this summer. But what is nice is that they're all eager to get back out there and do that. So as a coach, you first of all want to know that everyone's healthy and doing well, but it's also nice to know that, they've got that itch to get back out there. And for us, that will require individual conversations, because although we are a team sport, the way we get better is the individual development with each player, right, in tennis, right, as you know, as we move along. So that'll just require maybe some forehand stuff for this player, or some mental stuff for this player, or things like that we can kind of give them to work on this summer a little bit, which is really cool.
Along with that, I know you mentioned a little bit that it's been hard to train, but how have you tried to guide them through, hey, we know there's not a lot at your disposal right now. You don't have all the resources that you normally do, but here's what you can do to stay in shape. What are some of the strategies that you have employed to try to get them to stay in shape, try to get them to keep doing something during this time?
Absolutely. Our strength coach, Mike Navratil, has sent them a lot of stuff that they can do. He's awesome at home to help, kind of help stay healthy and help keep them in shape the best that they can. And with each individual player, because with the rules being different everywhere, different people have different access or do not have access to different things. So he's been great with that. And as far as the tennis standpoint goes, doing things like, if it would be a grip on a swing, maybe a little video here and there, from a few weeks ago, or hey, explaining where we're going to go once this whole thing ends. That way we can, hit the ground running, so to speak, get that ball rolling for each of those players going back. And then after that, it's kind of the waiting game like everybody else, man. Just waiting to get back out there and restart the action.
I'm curious how recruiting has maybe been a little bit different during this time period, because obviously I'm sure you're used to being able to go to campuses, being able to meet some of these girls in person. And now here you are pretty much just being stuck to doing stuff like this to try to connect with them. So what has that process been like? How has that been an adjustment for you as you've dealt with the circumstances?
It is, but what's nice about that? It's actually in some ways similar to talking to the girls that are already here. If you can't see them in person, you're communicating much in the same way. Okay, kind of like phone calls, explaining, making sure that they can do like a virtual tour on campus, or looking things up. You're trying to build a lot of excitement for when we can see them in person, right? When we can bring them to campus. And just trying to give them a nice view of our brand at Akron for our team, which we're trying to build, which is a high energy, exciting, fun, work hard environment type of place to be. And I think with the recruiting right now, that's our main goal, is to, one, help build our brand the best we can, without being in person, but also getting the setup ready to go for when we can bring them to campus and show them around and show them all the great things that we have going on with Sips Tennis, man, because it's a lot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And one thing, as we get to the sort of last couple questions here, I know we've talked about it a lot out at your matches, but the mental aspect of tennis is one of the most important things. And you sort of talked to me about how, different players have different temperament in terms of what you have to say to them, how they handle adversity. How do you manage that as the coach? How do you manage, all right, this girl I need to talk to this way. This girl, she doesn't like this strategy as much when I'm talking to her. So how do you sort of manage those different personalities and the different mental, intake of different players? What's the challenge with that as a head coach?
You have asked the $1 million question, my man. It's very individualized. And Zach Bruback, did a really nice job with our team this year. It can be in ways very similar to like mechanics. If you know a player already, for example, the returning players, you've kind of got their mojo down a little. But for the incoming players, a little bit of it's trial and error in the fall as you get to know their personality on court and off, which can be totally different. You can see very talkative players off court that are real quiet during a match, or vice versa. Maybe it's the same, and getting to know their reactions in different situations. I think the more time you spend, which is why the fall is very, very beneficial with them during matches, it's a little easier to figure out. The one thing I think every coach battles, especially in our sport, is pressure management. When the matches get tight, are we slowing the racket down? Are we speeding it up? Are we maintaining what the usual swing speed is? And sometimes, based on what happened the point before, that can dictate that. Did you make a mistake and you need to forget it quick? Can you forget it quick? Is a player on the other side of the net trying to speed the tempo up or slow it down? Those are all things that we work on. But for me and our squad here, I think the more time that we spend working on those things in practice and communicating with the players about what's going on up here during the match, the better success that we have. And this past season for what we played of it, it worked out really, really well. But it does not happen overnight.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure it takes time. And obviously I know, again, being at the matches, talking to you about it, I know there's just different mindsets with each player of how to handle certain things, how they do, how you have to talk to them. So I get it 100%, but that's, I figured I'd throw that one in there because that is one of the biggest questions with tennis, man, for sure.
It's huge. It is huge. And I think the toughest thing to work on as well. I think for as long as I've been in tennis, I think that's the most difficult thing to teach as well. Cause there's not a one size fits all on the mental side of tennis up there.
All right, we'll wrap up with this, Coach. Obviously, you get to spend a little more time at home, I'm sure, than you are used to. You usually get to. What are you doing? What's maybe the one thing you're doing more so than you've ever done before to keep yourself busy?
Working on my house in the downtime, where you find chores that you wouldn't normally do. But if you have a little extra time, then you can do that. So pretty much just that. And my wife likes to find a few extra things for me to do as well, too. So that helps keep me busy. So mostly just that.
Nice. All right. Well, Coach, we appreciate the time. As always, thanks for joining us on our checkup here during this coronavirus pandemic. Stay safe. Keep everybody moving forward, and hopefully we'll be back on campus soon.
Absolutely. It's always great to see you. As usual, go Zips, and everybody stay safe out there.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for watching, everybody, and go Zips.
Go Zips. Thanks, Spencer.